Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our wonderful webinar you're about to participate in, Recipe Redo, Supporting Consumers with Food-Safe Recipes. Today, our main speaker is Dr. Sandria Godwin from Tennessee State University in Nashville. I'm your moderator, Mary Saucier-Choate, Manager of Outreach and Stakeholder Engagement at the Partnership for Food Safety Education. And also presenting a little later will be Shelley Feist, Executive Director at the Partnership for Food Safety Education. A little housekeeping. You know that you have 1 hour of credit available to you from CDR or NEHA, and you can get this right from that bar on the right-hand side of your screen. If you click on handouts, you'll see 3 out of 5. There you can download the CDR certificate, the NEHA certificate, or, in addition, the recipe modification summary. That's a summary of the work Dr. Godwin has done and is presenting today. Backfighters will receive the link to all of these pieces in their weekly e-card. If you're not a backfighter, I encourage you to become one by signing up at the fightback.org website. Otherwise, you can go to that website under free resources, then look for recorded webinars, and we'll be posting this within 72 hours. When we get to the question and answer section, to ask a question, just use the question box, again, on the right of your screen. After the webinar, you'll receive a brief evaluation survey. Please, we're asking you to fill that out, and your answers can help us make these webinars even better for you in the future. Our learning objectives today, participants will be able to summarize the results of the study, Recipe Modification Improves Food Safety Practices During the Cooking of Poultry. Participants will describe the food safety challenges faced when consumers follow existing instructions in recipes. You'll be able to articulate how recipes can be used as educational tools for food safety information. You'll examine how the addition of food safety instructions can improve consumer behaviors during food preparation. And you'll be able to redesign recipes to include food safety instructions that are specific enough to lead to appropriate actions. Okay, so now a poll question for you briefly. We're curious about who's on the webinar today. We're wondering if you are eligible for our CDR or NEHA continuing education units, and if yes, which one or neither. So I'm going to launch that poll, and if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to click yes or no, I'm sorry, click CDR or NEHA or both or neither. And once we have a few folks answering those polls, really interesting. I'm just going to leave it open for a few more seconds to give you a chance to register whether you are taking CDR or NEHA CEUs, both or neither. Wow, really interesting. Now let me close the poll and share it with you. So, really interesting. As you can see, about a little more than half of us are dietitians or dietetic professionals and taking the CDR. 1% have both, and 44% have neither. So this is really interesting. That's great. The more the merrier as far as I'm concerned with getting this great information out. So thank you for taking that poll. Get out of there now. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the screen over to Dr. Godwin. Go ahead, Dr. Godwin.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for Mary and Shelley, when she gets on, for hosting this webinar. We're very excited about the work we've been doing at Tennessee State University to try and improve the food safety practices surrounding poultry and eggs. And so this is just part of a huge project that we lovingly call PEEP, if you can see the icon on the screen. because our ultimate goal is to develop ways to improve practices of consumers. So to do that, we have done over a dozen studies with consumers, including surveys, observational work, interviews, focus groups, cooking, and just about anything else you can think about. So this is just a small part of a great big study. So think about the next page when it comes up. There we go. Okay. So where do you get your cooking information? We asked consumers that in one of our studies back in the beginning of this project. And of course many of them said family and friends, but they do use cookbooks and magazines, and of course the internet now. And unfortunately, if you look at an article we just published, they also look at cooking shows on television. But we were wondering if recipes could be used as a source of food safety information. We have looked at now over 500 recipes for poultry and eggs and looked at what recommendations they are giving consumers on how to decide when the products are done or potentially safe to eat. And we did find that they have a lot of food preparation information, but only a small percentage of them have any food safety recommendation. And even when it came to poultry recipes, only a fourth of them even had an endpoint temperature in there, so they use many other types of behaviors to recommend how you determine when something's done. So we're wondering if we put food safety information into recipes, if it would change the behaviors of consumers. We know from a previous study that they reported that it changed the behaviors, and so I'm going to show you a little bit about the previous study before we go on to the current study. It's changing slowly. Sorry, the slide's not changing.
There.
There we go. Okay. In a previous study that we did, we actually developed a cookbook, and for any of you that want to view this cookbook in its entirety, it is on our website, and I'll give you the page for that later. But we called it Tasty and Safe, a combination that makes the perfect meal. And it was treated kind of like the Recipe of the Month Club. We interviewed the consumers before they received the cookbook, and so at the beginning they received the binder and individual pages. And what you're seeing on this slide are the pages that we inserted. There were 8 different divisions. And then each month we would give them a set of recipes, maybe 3 or 4 recipes that would go within each division. So we had general food safety information on the binder pages.
What's
And
happening?
then within,
Sorry, there you go.
within the recipe itself, this is just an example of one for blue cheeseburgers. And if you look at where we sort of inserted instructions that would relate to food safety, this particular one is talking about washing the onion and how to wash it. This is one that talks about washing your hands after handling the meat mixture, refrigerating within 2 hours, washing their hands again, and etc. So especially here we have a recommended endpoint temperature. And we even talk about how to insert the thermometer. So that's what our recipes look like in that particular cookbook. I think we now have a poll.
There we go. Okay, just a brief poll question for you. Have you seen recipes that include food safety instructions with the directions? We're just curious about how many people are actually using this. So let me launch that poll. Wow, I have to say I am surprised that people have, I'm surprised at how many people have seen recipes like this. Let me close the poll and show you the results. Okay, so you can see that about half of you have seen recipes that include food safety instructions. That's fabulous. That's way more than I would have guessed. About 45.
Wouldn't it be interesting to know where they were?
Yeah, it would be interesting to know where they were.
I'd
Maybe
like
you
to see
could.
them.
Maybe you could tell us that in the survey that you get after the webinar's over, or in the questions now. We'd love to know where you're seeing those, because someone's doing a great job if they're doing it already. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to the content. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so we did when comparison, the pre-test and the post-test from using those cookbook with the recipes that had the instructions, we did have the consumers saying that they liked the recipes and that they would use them and that they had used some of them, and they were following the directions that were in there, but that was reported behavior. We didn't have a study actually showing whether it changed actual behaviors. So that was the main question that led to the project that we're now going to talk about. So we actually altered some normal recipes. We actually found a recipe for a turkey burger and chicken breast, and we included food safety instructions with them. So right within the directions themselves to make them more obvious, and then we also make them stand out. We had consumers come into our labs in 2 states, Kansas and Tennessee, and we observed them using a very comprehensive check sheet, looking at behaviors that we were looking for in particular, but any other thing that we saw that they might have done that would have been something we didn't even put in the recipe. So here's the recipe, one of the recipes that we used and how we inserted the instructions. This is what the recipe looked like to begin with. So it looked like a standard instructions for preparing a turkey burger, I guess, if you make turkey burgers. And here's an example of the recipe instructions that we added. So we did want them to wash their hands with soap and warm water. Now we know that it's actually a 5-step process to wash your hands correctly, but we did think that would be a little overburdensome to repeat that every time we talked about washing their hands. So they're on one of the insert pages or other things that people get in the cookbook itself, it does talk about the 5 steps. We also talked about washing the mushroom, and we also again then talked about washing their hands. And this is the recipe continued. Wash their hands again, so you'll find about 4 times in here we told them to wash their hands. And then we told them how to put the thermometer into the side of the burger, where the tip should extend to, and what the temperature should be when the burger was done. And then continuing to check the temperature if it wasn't cooked the first time. And then if they touch the turkey, would check in the temperature, wash their hands again. I guess you could have actually included the next one if you wanted to consider that, because we said a clean plate when they're finished cooking. So that was what the recipe looked like. And as we said, we brought in 154 consumers, which is quite a few to get people to come into a facility. They did have to be people that normally cooked at home, so we wanted to know if they were already experienced with poultry. And they were randomly assigned to either the recipes that did not have the food safety instructions in them or the ones that did. And magically, here's some of the results. We did have a survey that we gave them at the end of the cooking period. We were rather curious how their reported practices compared to the large study that we had done earlier. We've done a very comprehensive study, and you can see the reference for that here at the bottom, because we've done over 2,000 consumers. And we do find that reported behavior usage of thermometers is extremely low for small pieces of poultry, and definitely for ground meats. And so, as you can see, for the large piece of meat like the whole turkey or a whole chicken, we do have a fairly good percentage of it. It's still only about 20 to 25%. Who said they use it most of the time or always, but when we got over here to small pieces, it dropped drastically. Very few people are actually reporting using a thermometer with hamburgers, ground meat, or small pieces of poultry. So I think we have a poll question.
You must be psychic.
Hey.
Now, here's our poll question. Again, do you use a thermometer when cooking at home to determine the internal temperature of meat patties? So let me give that a launch. Oh, there it is. So take a second or two and just click whether you use a thermometer at home to determine the internal temperature of meat patties. Okay, well, I'll give you a few more seconds. People are still responding. Do you use a thermometer when cooking at home to determine the internal temperature of meat patties? Okay, looks like everyone has answered who wants to answer. And there, about a quarter of us who are here today say yes, they always use a thermometer. 36 say yes sometimes, and 41% don't. So we've got some improvement to do here, but it's always good to see where we're starting from. So that's great. Thank you for participating in that poll, and let's move along again.
Okay, so we were quite excited about the results when we got them. Now, we do always caution people that this is people being observed, and they know they're being observed, so they would tend to be more likely to follow the instructions they were given. We have a comparison. If you see the bars on the left, that's the pink bar, and that's for people that did not have food safety instructions. So some of them were actually doing the right behaviors even without being told. Again, it may be because they're being observed, but almost 40% actually wash their hands before cooking anyway. But when we told them to, you could see that 3 of the bars changed drastically. So not how to wash their hands. After putting the meat in a bowl, we had about the same number that washed their hands after mixing the meat with their hands. Now, my assumption is because meat is kind of a gross thing to handle, and nobody wanted to keep that on their hands afterwards. But it is rather surprising that that's still only about 75%. So 25% kept right on working, even in both groups, and didn't wash their hands. But here was one that we really, really, really were happy about, and that's if they used the thermometer. So we had over 86% of them actually use the thermometer when they were told to. For the chicken patties, the chicken burgers, I'll get it right in a minute, chicken breast, again, we had all behaviors significantly improved, and that's that they were more likely to wash their hands before cooking when we told them to. After handling the egg, a very small percentage did that were not told to. After handling the chicken and using the thermometer. So we had, again, significantly greater usage when they were told to use it than we had without it. And the good part about that was not only did they use a thermometer, but they changed how they used the thermometer. So those that had used one previously, many times were not, or you had used one without being told to use one, did not insert it correctly. And so telling them exactly how to insert it and where to insert it made a big difference, and 73%. Now, what I do find fascinating, though, is that's still not 100%. I would expect 100% of people to do what you told them to do, but they don't, even though they are humans. And this was for the breast itself. So 69% inserted it correctly. We do find, and this is one of the discrepancies, I'm looking at all the recipes that we've been looking at all the educational programming that's already out there. We do find most of the pictures that are people are being shown inserting the thermometer, it's being done incorrectly. So do be aware that it's supposed to be inserted to the side of the breast or the side of the burger with the tip extending into the center, not sticking it in from the top. Where you're only going down a small ways with the thermometer.
Okay, so we have our last poll question of the presentation. How much do you like or dislike having the food safety instructions included within the recipe directions? So let me launch that poll, and if you wouldn't mind voting on that. How much do you like or dislike? And you can do like extremely, like, neutral, dislike, or dislike extremely, the idea or the actuality of having food safety instructions within the recipe directions. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds for folks that want to vote on that. Okay, it looks like everyone has voted who wants to vote. Let me show you the results there. Oh, sorry. I wanted to show you the results, and I'm not able to. Isn't that embarrassing? Well, let me tell you the results.
It came up for a second.
It came up for a second, and
yes.
Oh my. Okay, so 36%. Oh, I can show you. I can. Let's see. Share it.
There.
Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not.
I am.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so here we go. Yes, 36% really liked the idea of putting food safety instructions right within the recipe. 45% like it, think it's a good idea. 15% are just kind of neutral about that. 4% don't like that idea. And I would love, again, in the poll at the that you'll receive after the webinar or even during the question period, I'd love to hear if you're disliking it or neutral about it, what would make it more appealing to you, or is there some other reason? So that's really interesting. Thank you so much for answering those poll questions, and now we'll get back to our conclusions.
Okay, so we did find, of course, in this study that including the food safety information in the instructions within the recipe significantly improved all the behaviors but the one of washing their hands after handling the turkey meat. However, one of the things that we still do not know is whether this improvement would continue over time. If people, they might get tired of seeing it there and start ignoring it more and more and more. But we do believe that repetition is extremely important. And another thing that we did was we asked the consumers, both those who used the recipes that had the instructions, and then we showed the recipes that had the instructions to the ones that used the recipes that did not have instructions. And the ones, they loved the recipes. They thought they were very easy to use, and they would use them in the future. And also that they would like to see more recipes like this. They didn't think it was burdensome. And what we really liked about it is they wanted to tell their friends about these recipes and tell them to look for them. So that was good for us. What we're going to do next, as soon as the slide changes.
There you go.
Well, I'm sorry, there's one more. Those at Delaware Thermometer still believe it was important for large items and that it would improve safety. However, many believe that a food thermometer is not easy or convenient to use, and it's not necessary for small items. This is a concern because, as most of you on this webinar probably already know, there have been millions of dollars spent on trying to get people to use thermometers, and if we're not even getting the message apart that it's necessary for all items that we cook, especially for meats, then that's a problem. We do believe that publishers of recipes should incorporate these changes to improve food safety behaviors, and kind of working behind the scenes now with one company in particular, trying to get them to do this, and maybe they'll be the leaders in the industry. So what are we doing now? I've been asked to create standardized food safety instructions and recipe templates for the Department of Agriculture in particular. They want to have these recommended for all of the recipes that they, publish or that come out for their programs, especially the FNEP and the 10-SEP programs. 10-SEP here is our food stamp program, but all of the United States. And the other thing they wanted to be sure was that the recommendations or the standard recommendations are, the same, because we don't want people going out and giving different instructions. For example, we don't want one person telling them to stick the thermometer in from the top and another person telling them to stick it in from the side, or much as we have now with the different pictures. And they'd also like to have some templates kind of showing people how you would insert it here and what type of thing you would insert there. We are working specifically on developing a cookbook and recipes for poultry and egg dishes that will have these within them. So we are collaborating with USDA and several other agencies at the present time. Finally, I would like to say thank you to our funding agency, which is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This is a large, what they call their AFRI flagship programs. And we have had two program leaders. Jeanette Thurston was with us for the first 3 years. She moved up into a different position, and Isabel Walls is now our program leader. We really appreciate their support. The collaborators on the project, we could never ever do a project like the ones that we do without having other people helping us. So we did have collaborators at Kansas State University where part of this work was done, particularly Dr. Edgar Chambers. Curtis Mon was a doctoral student who's now gone on to industry. And then here at TSU I had two fabulous research assistants, so we thank them also. We're ready for questions.
Okay, well thank you so much, Dr. Godwin. That was so fascinating, and it's great, when you think something will be true, if you put food safety instructions in a recipe, that people will follow them, but it's great to actually do the research so you can see that it actually did improve people's behavior quite a bit. So now we have a lot of questions already on deck, and so people can continue to ask them by going to the questions box over on the right there, and I'm going to look at them and see how we do. So, wow, let me go back to the top here. Okay. All right, so can you refer me to a good source for instructions on how to check the temperature for loose ground meat? Ooh, what do you think of that, Dr. Godwin? Do you have an answer for that?
Okay, it would depend on how loose it is. Actually, we use an infrared scanner that we get from a company called Thermometer, and we use the infrared, and I believe that's the industry standard for commercial use also.
So this is for consumers? What would consumers do? Should they make like a pile of it?
Can actually get a Thermometer. Another study we did, we were doing egg dishes, which was similar. We piled up the scrambled eggs and used the infrared on that. Consumers, I would pile it up and stick a thermometer, just a regular meat thermometer in the middle. We actually use the old-fashioned, we call them Fisher Scientific. You might remember that from all you've had your science classes, but we actually stick one of those down in the center to check the temperature.
Okay, so the center of a pile of loose ground beef.
Right.
Okay, well that's a good tip. Okay, have you done any recipes, any research on other types of recipes, beef, pork, seafood? Dr. Godwin?
Not the cooking, watching the people use the recipes. We do have some of those kind of recipes in our other cookbook, but those were only tested in terms of the consumers saying they used them and they work. But we do have those recipes in that cookbook, and I did promise the website if you want to look for it. It's www.fight, just like a fight back, but it's fight-c-less, L-E-S, FIGHTC-less, LES.org. So it's less with one S. We have several food safety items on there, but the entire cookbook is there. So you can look at some more of those recipes, and we do have everything from desserts to breakfast foods, and there's some pork and fish in there.
Oh, can I just say, if someone didn't get that, we can put that on our website. Also, if you want to go right to her cookbook, it's just Google Tasty and Safe Cookbook, and you'll get there. It's really wonderful. Okay, so now, let me see. So many questions. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Okay, where can we find accurate photos of how to take the temperature, especially poultry whole bird? Is there a source for that?
Not that we have found. We have searched and searched and searched looking for pictures to use and did not find any. We took our own pictures for our new upcoming videos, and it was just really hard to find people using real right way when they're showing people to do things.
Okay.
If anyone would like to do that, that'd be wonderful. We hope to have some on our website, don't we, Mary?
Say that again. I'm sorry, Dr. Godwin.
So we hope we'll have some in our new promotion that'll be coming out later this year.
Yes, that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Right. In fact, let me keep an eye on the time here. Okay. We're still going to have like another couple minutes to talk about your questions from your listeners. Let's see. Oh, interesting. I'm not sure. Okay, if poultry is not at 165 degrees, should directions include washing the thermometer before reinserting to check the temperature?
I would say that's an excellent suggestion. Alcohol wipe might be easier, but sure, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
I neither, so I'll write that down.
This is why webinars are great. There's a lot of knowledge here, listening as well as presenting. Okay, well this is kind of interesting, but probably you provided them with the thermometer. It says you showed 86% used a thermometer after reading the recipe, but how many homes even have a thermometer? So you provided them with a thermometer. Is that right, Dr. Godwin?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
But in our study, we found that about 40% of homes, or people in their homes, and that was over 1,800 people, told us that they have a thermometer. However, we have a follow-up study where we actually went to people's homes and asked them, and these were just kind of questions to deter them from what we were really looking for, was where they put their chicken when they got home with it. But, so we would ask them questions about a thermometer, and they'd tell us they had one. We said, well, where's it stored? They couldn't find it. So,
wow.
They have them, about 40% of homes have them now, but they're not using them.
Okay, so that's a great idea for a Christmas present for folks that don't have one. Now another question, such interesting questions. Was your criteria for washing hands set at 20 seconds in order for the effort to be counted, or did you count any length of washing at all?
Since we did not tell them 20 seconds, we counted any length at all in terms of what we just showed you, but we do have the timing also in that complicated chart that we filled out while they were being observed.
Okay.
But again, almost every study we've done, people wash for an average of 5 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's better than nothing.
Okay. Now, many consumers now get their recipes from online sources like All Recipes, Spark Recipes, etc. Oh, this is just a comment. These are posted by the public and not tested. Food safety instructions would be great in these, but... Oh, she couldn't finish her question. No.
Oh, okay.
Not too bad. Well, maybe you can...
we've definitely been looking at online recipes also, and there needs to be some... I mean, if we're really concerned about people getting sick from recipes that don't have good instructions, there needs to be some kind of guidance or regulation on it. Because when somebody can just post anything they want out there, which you can now, something like Pinterest, I probably get flooded with recipes every day from Pinterest if it's a person's home recipe. And they can just tell people to do almost anything. A side note, we are working with a company that was concerned, and we found that people were giving out wrong instructions on food safety, and they want to become an industry leader to change that. So let's hope we have some impact in the long run.
Some other great questions. Will you leave instructions for calibrating thermometers? Did you mention that in your instructions to the folks, or
No.
in your other materials?
Okay. I guess I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this here, but the calibration methods used for thermometers are not technically accurate. If you think about if water's supposed to freeze at 32 and that you're using cold water as your 32-degree mark to calibrate your thermometer, that can't be correct. So we do not use those calibration instructions.
Okay. Here's a great question. With all the extra instructions, how does this affect the literacy of the recipe for reading ease? Did people complain about that, or did you have any trouble with that?
We didn't have any complaints about it. I don't know that we had low literacy people come in per se. We had some students, we had some older adults, mix of races for sure. No one ever complained about the literacy. Of course, following any recipe might be a problem.
Yeah, and that's where some icons might help.
Right.
Is there a thermometer? Now, this is just off. I'm not sure if you would know this, but is there a thermometer for visually impaired people? Are you aware of that? For the visually impaired, like a giant reed, giant?
Actually, we have the giant reed thermometers we ordered, and they turned out to be the least accurate of all the thermometers, and they didn't even have a way to calibrate them at all, so we couldn't even calibrate them against each other. So we were kind of disappointed in that, but we did order the large dial thermometers for usage, and ended up not being able to use them. We had to get different ones.
Okay. Someone asked again.
Yes, they are out there.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I just said yes, they are available.
Okay. And someone asked again, what is the site to get the cookbook? And that is Tasty and Safe Cookbook. If you Google that, you will come to the cookbook. Okay, do you think, here's a good question, do you think it's just as effective to have the food safety instruction in a footnote as it is right in the directions? And this is from a blogger. She says, just curious, because as a blogger, this might not sound as attractive or flow as nicely in the script of a recipe.
No, we found it definitely, because there are a lot of cookbooks actually have that. And there is a site you can go to that the government has now that you can actually put your recipe in, and it will give the food safety recommendations at the bottom. But we do not consider that nearly as effective. Now, we haven't tested it, but we don't know. You know, we've got the pages themselves in cookbooks, and people don't tend to read the external stuff. They'll just go down and follow the instructions and be done. That would be a
Okay.
good study if somebody can do it, comparing where the instructions are put and when they have the most impact.
Okay, I think you mentioned this, but I'll just ask, our program, this is April, our program commonly uses recipes from USDA's What's Cooking and Iowa State's Spend Smart, Eat Smart. How do we go about having them include more food safety recipes in those resources? Now, you mentioned something about working with the USDA, didn't you, on doing this?
Yeah, it may be a little bit different question. I have nothing to do, of course, with them including more recipes as far as a number. But they are going to be, it is going to be recommended that, you better catch your computer, Mary. I think that's your computer getting ready to start again.
No, my computer doesn't seem to be moving.
Really, because I've got an antivirus thing showing up here. So
Oh, I just saw that. Oh my, I just saw that. Do you see it again? It should be.
Yeah, I think that's yours. Anyway, we don't have anything about the number, but they are going to be asked to put the food safety instructions in there, with the directions for the recipe.
So just keep your eye out for that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's another good comment. Do you think this food safety inserted information make the recipes too busy and crowded and not easy to follow?
I think that's always a challenge. Like our turkey patty recipe, your instructions went from being, half a page to a full page. But in the study itself, it didn't seem to bother the people that participated. Now, we never know if they were just being nice, or, we're very realistic. We know they're probably just being nice to us, to our face, and they may have left and said it was awful, but we hope. So yes, it is going to make it longer. It's going to make the cookbooks be bigger or have less recipes in them, whatever people decide to do. We hope they don't shrink the font so much that people won't be able to read it, because that is a problem sometimes. Like the pictures I showed you of our cookbook online, the pages are much bigger than that in person. So that just got shrunk to fit on the slide. It is going to make them longer.
Yeah. Okay, so that might be a good use of like text style, maybe, to just focus on but that's for a graphic artist to deal with. Okay, so here's in your cookbook, Dr. Godwin, someone has a question. What would you recommend on a recipe that only consists of produce? So you have produce-only recipes in that Tasty and Safe cookbook.
Mostly that is dealing with washing the produce and how to wash the produce. We also have published studies on that of the best methods for washing different types of produce, and so those steps were included in anything had produce. And of course, if you were going to cut the produce, we talk about the clean cutting board and not using it for any uncooked products or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Just a few more minutes for a couple more questions. Let's see, are there a special type of thermometer that is better than others that you would recommend? Like the instant read, or there's the digital better for consumers?
For actually checking at the end to see if something is done, the instant reads are like you should call this, the ones that we use as dietitians, the old-fashioned ones you stick in your pocket.
Like the analog kind of circled.
Yeah, they work pretty well. We actually also do studies where they put the thermometer in at the beginning, and that has to be, of course, an oven-safe thermometer. And I hate to mention, I won't mention a brand, unfortunately, but none of them are completely accurate in that, so it is a problem. You have to kind of, but be aware, and I guess maybe we should tell this, there are safety factors built into these temperatures. It's not like instant where the thermometer reads 165, the product is safe. They already know that we need to put a little leeway in here for differences. So a lower temperature was safe also in most cases.
Okay. And it looks like that is about all the time we have for the questions. Those were fantastic questions. And so at this point, I want to thank you again, Dr. Godwin, for this great presentation. We got a lot of information, and I want to encourage folks to, if they want more information or if they have other questions, they can certainly go to foodsafety.gov or go to fightback.org. We have a lot of information on our website as well. So now we're going to move on to Shelley Feist. I need to make sure that Shelley has connected and is there. And Shelley, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. And so I've given you the reins, and Shelley's going to talk to us about a campaign around food safety and more called The Story of Your Dinner. So you're all set,
Okay,
Shelley.
Mary, you want me to advance the slides?
Yeah, if you can. If you can't, I will.
Nope, I can. I'll give it a whirl. So, thank you, and thank you all for being with us today. I'm Shelley Feist, Executive Director of the Partnership for Food Safety Education. Our webinar programs are one of the things that we work hard to deliver to you. So, as Mary has said, please share your thoughts about today's webinar in the survey. I'm going to talk today about a really fun and interesting campaign we're working on that I think you'll want to know about because it's coming out this fall and because it builds somewhat on the work that Sandria has done around recipes and the inclusion of food safety instructions and recipes. The Story of Your Dinner is coming out from the Partnership for Food Safety Education. And I'm going to give you an overview, and in the post-webinar survey you'll have an opportunity to indicate your interest in being a part of this campaign. So here we go. So what is this about? Well, it's about Thanksgiving season, which is a time to celebrate our bounty of safe quality food. As you know, it's as food safety educators that it's a time of a great interest in food safety practices for home cooks, and it's a good time to have a conversation around preventing foodborne illness from farm to table. A lot of people who don't do a lot of cooking are in the kitchen and naturally want to have a safe and fantastic meal for their family and friends. Key messages of the Story of Your Dinner. What makes it a little different is that we're framing food safety throughout the chain of prevention, and we're portraying the parties in the chain of prevention, including consumers. Often we develop consumer campaigns and messaging that just tell the consumer, here are things you should do to reduce your risk. We don't often show the consumer, and again this would be in an overview method, what is done to protect food before it comes to their household, before they bring it home from the grocery store. So a centerpiece of the Story of Your Dinner is going to be an animated original video that's an invitation to consumers to complete this circle of food safety for themselves and those they care for. It's to also convey that there's a sense of shared commitment to preventing foodborne illness and that there are people and players behind delivering food that are doing a lot of things to keep that food safe, so till it gets to your family. As educators, you'll be interested to know that there's going to be a number of tools for consumer education, including kid-friendly placemats. They're going to have a lot of great both food safety content and as well games and activities, and then recipes that are part culinary inspiration and part food safety education, as you've been talking about today, and as Sandria has powerfully conveyed the importance of that. We will do a lot on social media, and this is where, of course, you all can be very involved. We're planning a Twitter party for November 16th, and we would love you to mark your calendar now. If you watch your e-cards and emails from the partnership, you'll get a reminder of this. We're doing a special campaign with bloggers, food bloggers, particularly in the Southeast United States, weaving in the two sides of every dinner, the story narrative about southern sides and recipes with food safety instructions, and a great sweepstakes contest with prizes, including Publix gift cards, and who can't use a gift card to a great grocery store during the holidays. We're calling this the Consumer Hand in Health Sweepstakes, and if you see on the left how the little turkey hand is decorated, we're going to be encouraging Americans to submit their turkey hand drawing for the sweepstakes. So you've just heard about research that shows increased compliance when food safety instructions are integrated into recipes for home cooks. And we, as I said, are going to be doing this through Southern Sides and the promotion of recipes that include food safety steps. So we'll be testing this out as part of this campaign. Again, as you learn of this content and see these recipes posted, I'm sure there'll be opportunities for you to share those recipes or even to call attention through your organization's social media channels to the importance of the inclusion of food safety steps in recipes for consumers. So Southern Sides recipes will be formatted and available for download, as I said. So this is also content that you all might really enjoy promoting, both because it is a food safety message and also because it calls attention to home food preparation during the holidays. So please plan to get involved. We should have a little time for some questions after I finish here, and I'd love to take your questions live, and Mary can help with that. In the post-webinar survey, we do ask you a question if you would like to be a collaborator on the story of your dinner, to please indicate that in the survey, and then we can be in touch with you later. If you're working on holiday outreach, you may not be working on it yet. You may be. What I want to encourage you is that these tools and messaging will be available for you to use free. So go ahead and make it a centerpiece of your holiday campaign for this year. We're going to be doing a release party in late October, and we'll have a formal webinar to release the campaign and show you all the gorgeous new things that are available. So watch for information about that. And then again, put the Twitter party on your calendar. Our hashtag will be Story of Your Dinner, and we'd love you to participate on November 16th. The Story of Your Dinner is also different in that we really work to bring together some of the companies that want to be part of the story of what's done to protect food and in supporting consumers so that they have the information they need to keep food safe at home. So these leading supporters are helping make the Story of Your Dinner possible as a pilot campaign this year, and it would be our hope to build out the campaign in 2017 holiday season on a larger scale. So we thank our sponsors.
Okay, so is that, now it's time for some questions?
Yeah, if we have some time. I have one. I think I have a closing slide, but it's not coming up.
Let me see.
Yeah, or maybe you can advance it. There we go. That gives people, if you want to contact me directly about the Story of Your Dinner, please do. Here's my email address, and again, we will preview the campaign the week of October 24th for you, the backfighters. I'm happy to take any questions you might have now.
Okay, let's see. All right, I'm going to see if we have any questions. Okay, so will the Story of Your Dinner include safety ideas for after-dinner ways to take care of immediate leftovers and then serve them the next day or future days? That's from Deborah.
Okay, so yeah, I think that the issue of leftovers, which has been a big part of our holidayfoodsafety.org campaign, which can be found on our main website now at fightback.org, that, yeah, use of leftovers is a great topic, and I'm sure it will be built in, particularly, of course, the safe handling of leftovers. Whether it will be built into recipes, I don't know, but I think that's a great idea because I think people are looking for ways to use leftovers in a yummy, different way. So thank you for that idea.
Let's see, another question. When did you say the campaign will be available?
It will be publicly released November 1st, and we will preview it for backfighters several days before that in a webinar. So you will be able to download everything no later than the 1st and possibly in late October. But you'll certainly be able to see the tools that are going to be available for you to use in late October.
Okay, so if someone isn't a backfighter and they want to get this early advance release, they'll just need to go to the fightback.org website and sign up, and then you're automatically getting first notice of these great campaign materials. Okay, will the campaign materials be in languages other than English?
We will have the video. We believe will be in Spanish and in English. Other materials will likely just be in English for this pilot.
Okay, let's see. Just looking, so many good questions. Okay. Is this focus primarily for the southeastern states, or can those of us in other regions be involved, i.e. the Midwest?
That's a great question. The reason we're saying this is a pilot in the Southeast is because that really helps us define areas for measurement of what's being done with the campaign, particularly through Publix, which is a sponsor and a participant. But yes, because there's no limits to the Southeast, there's nothing about it that limits it to the Southeast. So anything available through social media and our available tools, you're encouraged to participate and use. And it's definitely national, and the sweepstakes are national, meaning you will probably need to be domestic, U.S.-based to enter, but you do not have to be from the Southeast to be a sweepstakes participant.
Okay. Now another question is, do you have a resource of standardized safety instructions we can use when adding new recipes to our program recipe books? And what I would like to suggest is on the fightback.org website, the fact sheets, cook, clean, separate, chill, are good basic information to use. But something that really is great for recipe writers is a foodsafety.gov tool called Recipe Tool. And with that, you take the directions for your recipe, put them in the recipe tool, and it will give you back icons wherever there should be food safety instructions. And the icon will either be clean, cook, chill, or separate. So that can be if you're interested in writing recipes like this, that's a great sort of a great place to start. Okay.
And eventually we will have those. This is Sandy. And eventually we are going to have those. We've been asked to do some standard ones. They just aren't done yet.
Okay. Wow, such great questions. We have a question. Let's see. Are we going to be talking in the story of holiday food handling about food handling gone wrong? We're not going to talk about that in this presentation, are we, Shelley? The story of your dinner is not going to be the story about food-borne illness. It's going to be about preventing.
In the past, we did a great video contest where we encouraged families to submit a video, about food safety at home during the holidays. It's awfully difficult to do that and as you say, not convey incorrect information, which we don't want to do. So no, we're not doing that, but that's something that for future, I love the idea if we could do it in a way that that helped point to how to do things right, and I think that's a cool idea. Anything that we could get consumers directly to participate in, I think really strengthens the message.
And if you're looking for those kind of videos, I think foodsafety.gov has a series of vignettes called Recipes for Disaster, pretty entertaining videos about this person who does everything wrong. So you might use those in your teaching. They're pretty entertaining. Let's see. Someone asked for the website again for the recipe tool. If you go to foodsafety.gov and then search recipe tool, you'll come to it. Okay. Are we using Instagram as a social media tool for this campaign? Yes, we will be. People will be able to submit their turkey hand via Instagram. and we'll use it for other things too. Let's see.
Yes, so please everybody get on. We'll give instructions as we launch the campaign for getting on Instagram so you can participate.
Right. Someone asked, are we going to be at FNCE, that's the Food Nutrition Conference and Exhibition this year in Boston, and sadly we're not. But Fight Back is the place to go, fightbac.org, for all this information and becoming a backfighter, so you get this in your email. You'll get all the materials that way. Okay, I think I'm seeing if there's any more questions before we have to wrap it up. Oh, okay, yes, this will be recorded. We're recording it right now, and we'll be posting it within 72 hours on our fightback.org website. And also backfighters will get it in their e-card next week. Okay, and I don't think we have other questions. So anything else you want to add as a last comment, Shelley, about the story of your dinner?
I don't. Just stay tuned and stay tuned to Mary's great emails that will always keep you up to speed on events and new content. Thank you to Sandra for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, what a high quality webinar, and we'll be using this a lot. Also, so just one more question, how do I become a backfighter? We love that question. Go to Fightback, F-I-G-H-T-B-A-C, no K, fightback.org. Right on the front page, just scroll down, you'll see, you just give us your email address and you get on our weekly e-card list, and you'll get first dibs on all these materials and lots of other helpful tools for food safety educators. Okay, so thank you so much for participating today. And again, we hope to see you again at our next webinar or Knowledge Exchange teleconference. Thank you, Dr. Godwin. Thank you, Shelley. And goodbye, everybody.
Bye.